start with introductions, everybody, but there's not too many people here, so you may know everybody already. But Lisa Normanton is our Board Secretary and Administrative Contact. Al Gravel, I'm Ray Beal, Don Bowen, Hans Winthrop,
Jim Bezikowski.
Jim Bezikowski, and Paul Doherty. There will be 5 voting members for this hearing tonight.
I'm going to vote tonight.
You will?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll give up if you want.
Oh, Jim already said he would.
Oh, Jim
Okay.
giving up?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the way we run the meeting is that associate members are participate in all of the discussion and have the opportunity to ask questions, but by the bylaws, there are 5 voting members on any one hearing. And so tonight, Jim is stepping aside, and Paul Doherty will be the voting member on this. Another thing I need to do is to notify you is that accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, this hearing is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access. Next, Lisa will read the application and any other submitted documents. Following that, you'll have the opportunity to submit any additional documents you might wish to, and to comment on the application. Following that, the members will have the opportunity to ask questions regarding the application and any associated documents, make comments. Usually there's an opportunity for public comments, but you have the public tonight, so we'll skip that. And then we'll bring it to the board for deliberation. And I should mention that there are a minimum of 4 required findings that we will address, so to keep it in mind. One of the first being that if we choose to grant the application, it will not be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire or explosion, or other reasons. Secondly, it will not have a material adverse effect on the value of the land and buildings in the neighborhood or on the amenities of the neighborhood. Third, it will be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if an open use. And 4, will not produce noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines in the amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of adjacent property. Those I'm sure you're familiar with from having gone through the application. And in any given situation, there may be specific additional findings that we're required to address and add conditions. So with that, Lisa, would you please?
This is an appeal from a person aggrieved, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 8, Zoning Board of Appeals, in an application for a special permit for dimensional variation, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, Zoning Board of Appeals. The name and address of the applicant is Sharon S. Vincent, 43 Oak Avenue in Lunenburg. The undersigned hereby appeals as follows. I'm aggrieved by the circumstances and seek a special permit dimensional variation to maintain the grandfathered status on 53 Oak Avenue. The deed was drawn up incorrectly at the time of the purchase. An application for the same was dated January 14th, 2015, was submitted to the building inspector and was denied by the same for the reasons stated in the letter attached hereto. The proposed action has not begun. The basis for this application for special permit is found in the following section of the Lunenburg zoning bylaw, Section 83214. The street address of the property is 53 Oak Avenue, assesses map 60, parcel 33. The name and address of each holder of legal title to the land which is the subject of this case is Sharon S. Vincent of 43 Oak Avenue in Lunenburg, and the deed was recorded in Worcester Northern District Registry of Deeds, Book 4118, page 372, recorded March 11th, 2002. And the special permit questions are attached and answered. will not be injurious or dangerous to the public health or unduly hazardous because of traffic congestion, danger of fire or explosion, or other reasons. Currently, it is a vacant lot. B, will not have a material adverse effect on the value of land and buildings in the neighborhood or on the amenities of the neighborhood. Its reply is no, it will not. C, will be operated with reasonable regard for order and sightliness if an open use. It is not an open use. D, will not produce noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, or glare observable at the lot lines in amounts clearly detrimental to the normal use of the adjacent property. And the reply is no more than what normally might occur when a home is constructed. There's some following information that's attached, and it's signed February 17th by Sharon S. Vincent of 43 Oak Avenue, Lunenburg. On May 8th, 2001, I purchased a parcel of land at 53 Oak Avenue, map 60, parcel 33, deed reference book 3792, page 79. This lot abuts my home property at 43 Oak Avenue. My intent at that time was twofold: to take ownership of the land as an investment and to take control of any development that might occur on it as a result of the upcoming installation of a sewer system on Oak Avenue. Prior to making this purchase, I contacted the then building inspector, Roger Williams, as well as the then planning board chair, Marion Benson, to discuss the current status of the lot and to ensure I fully understood the laws governing its grandfathered status. Some useful information was provided. However, neither of these individuals mentioned my need to avoid common ownership. Thinking I had completed my due diligence, I proceeded with setting a closing date. Again, despite having made my intentions clear, the attorney handling the matter did not mention common ownership as a situation I needed to avoid. It wasn't until a few months later that I learned having the lot in the same ownership as my abutting home property created a problem with maintaining the lot's grandfathered status. A friend who is a contractor by trade saw the transaction in the newspaper and called to inform me of this fact. Shortly thereafter, I contacted the attorney who handled the sale of the property. He drew up a corrective deed naming me as sole grantee, as well as an accompanying affidavit acknowledging his error in naming both my husband and me as grantee on the deed. Deed reference book 4118, page 372. As of that time, and up until my recent discussions with our current building inspector, I believe the matter was cleared up and that the grandfathered status of the lot remained intact. I ask your consideration of the extenuating circumstances surrounding this matter. Shall I read the building inspector's letter?
Yes, please.
Dated January 14th, this is actually to the assessor, Harold Scheid, regarding the zoning status at 53 Oak Avenue. Dear Harold, please be advised that after reviewing the deeds for the property located at 53 Oak Ave, and after a subsequent conversation with Lunenburg's Town Council, it has been determined that 53 Oak Avenue, owned by Sharon Vincent of 43 Oak Ave, is not to be considered a buildable lot for zoning purposes. Both lots were found to be owned in common ownership at one time and had merged under the common lot merger doctrine. While there appears to be some extenuating circumstances related to the Vincent's purchase of the lot, which may require relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals or some further review of Town Council, at this point in time, until relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals is granted or a legal argument of the zoning status of the lot maintaining its grandfathering has been determined by Town Council, 53 Oak Avenue is a non-buildable lot for zoning purposes. If you have any questions in regards to this correspondence, please contact me at the office. Respectfully, Michael Savageau. There is a deed attached, and the corrective quitclaim deed is attached, as well as a site plan of the lot in the abutting lot, the list of abutters, and that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Subsequent to reading the letter that you just read, which I just simply misplaced, because that was dated January the 14th, I had a conversation with the building commissioner at the beginning of this week, and we had a conversation about this merger doctrine, and I had done a little homework and accessed a document from the Department of Housing Community Development, which was prepared by Don Schmidt back in 2009 regarding the lot protection and merger doctrine. And he and I had a conversation of that, and really, we both came to the conclusion that in this case, that merger doctrine did not apply because one of the lots, your building, your home lot, is a conforming lot, not a non-conforming lot. And one of the things that we noted in reviewing this document was that the section 1B on this states very clearly that the substandard building lots must be combined to form one lot that will meet or more closely approximate the minimum lot area and frontage requirements of a zoning bylaw. Because one of the things that struck me that didn't make sense is why is it necessary to merge a non-conforming lot to a conforming lot? And, you know, we both came to the conclusion that although we still haven't had a definitive answer from town council, our interpretation of this is that this merger doctrine does not apply in this situation, simply because it's a standard lot and a non-standard lot, rather than two non-standard lots. It's understandable in the event that there are two non-standard lots that they force a merger so that it becomes a conforming lot. But it doesn't make any sense really to force a merger when one lot is already conforming and there's only one non-conforming lot we're talking about. So that's where we left that. We went on further to discuss the possibility that we also, as a board, have the authority to address a dimensional variation for the lot size. And given that we were both in agreement that this merger doctrine did not apply to this, there's no reason why we should not consider addressing the lot size, so that since we're meeting anyway, if it is challenged in court, we would have the authority to grant dimensional variation for that lot size. So with the board's indulgence here, I think that we should proceed and address that issue as well as this merged lot.
What will they be asking, what is the granting of, how, it's in non-conforming, what do they need? Is that defined?
Well, it's defined in our bylaws,
I
a
just want to
conforming
bring it
lot.
to the,
Sure. Lot size. In Residence A, the required lot area in our current bylaw is 40,000 square feet with 175 feet of frontage. 100 feet of frontage. Required lot width through the building is 175 feet. So that is something we can address because...
That 175 is where the house, there's always been confusion about that. It's when you put the house on the lot, at the front door of the lot, that line through the house to each side of the left and the right of it should be 175 feet.
Right.
We've had a lot of misunderstandings on that.
Yeah, a lot of discussion anyway. So I guess that there are two dimensions that we need to consider is the lot area and the required lot width through the building. Now, theoretically, they could have a lot width on the length of this lot because it's over, what was it? 202. So that build the house sideways and have the lot width. The main thing, I think, is the lot size.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are we going to ask the applicant if he wants to speak to the
Yes,
application?
yes, we are.
I didn't know if we had
No.
got to that point yet, or,
I
it
think
seems
we're-
like a member of the public has joined. I didn't know if somebody wanted to speak for or against.
Oh, the neighbor? Okay.
I think we're just trying to clarify exactly what is before us
All right.
at this point, before we,
Yeah.
before we
I wasn't
ask.
sure, okay. All right, in that case, then I do get 2 cents to throw in. It seems to me, and I agree with you, that I don't think these lots need to be joined. I don't think that this comes into play, which if that's the case, then this lot is grandfathered, it's buildable. I don't think as long as it meets the other requirements about the 5,000 square feet and the 50 feet of frontage, that I think
Yeah,
the other stuff is moot because you can put a house on it.
Yeah.
If we have decided that this doesn't apply.
Yeah.
And I think actually, in A, it also says, if you ask these questions, this house does answer all those questions.
meets all those requirements.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that right
So,
there says that
yeah.
this doesn't apply.
Does have 5,000 square feet and 50 feet of frontage. It's in a
It's
correct
zoned
zoning.
single and- Yeah, too, and it was legally
That
created.
would
so-
be, the 5,000 square feet would have been, the question is the timing of it. In other words, up to the time we created zoning, all you needed was 5,000 square feet to go to the zero lot line, except for because you were a grandfathered lot.
Correct.
You were a grandfathered lot. This is purchased in 2001 purchase. What was the requirements for having a buildable lot at that time in 2001? And that's the question in my mind. In other words, what we're saying is, are all substandard lots that sit in Lunenburg today all grandfathered and all buildable as substandard lots?
That depends.
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, no, and I understand the point, but I think it depends. This situation, we're talking about a standard lot and a substandard lot.
Yes, and
Now, so it depends on whether or not you're considering 2 substandard lots. That's why the
No,
merger doctrine.
I'm not talking about the merger. I agree with that 100%. The merger's done, and I agree 100%.
Okay.
Now what we have in front of us is a non-buildable lot in time, if the time is after the Lunenburg zoning bylaws were created with respect to this lot. Is my question.
Well,
What are your thoughts on that matter?
It was existence before
Pardon?
zoning came in.
Pardon?
It was in existence before zoning came in, this lot. So therefore, it's grandfathered and buildable.
You're saying prior to the purchase by,
Yeah, the purchase date has nothing to do with Don. It's the date at which,
when was
zoning came into town.
the development created
Well, it
at
was-
that time?
that was-
I'm just want to understand. In other words, if
well, she bought it at a subsequent date. She had been next to their property for a while.
no, but
my
it's
understanding.
when the lot was created.
Right.
The lot was created and after,
Oh, after zoning, that'd be a different story.
that's what I'm asking,
Okay.
that's all I'm asking. And if you bring it to the surface and said, this lot here
Right.
was,
I
The deed's here.
think the zoning came in 79.
Yeah, 65?
62, 60.
that's the only question I'm asking, because if I created a lot,
Right, but I think,
Now.
I think the
1945.
merger,
okay,
All right.
that's all I want. Yeah, the 1945 is when
Yeah.
it was established.
November the 13th, 1945.
Yeah, okay.
Recorded by...
That's the only question I wanted to ask, is to put it in
Yeah.
context, that it wasn't something that we weren't creating a buildable lot substandard, and that's all I'm looking for.
Yeah.
but there
All
were
right.
I see, and that date, I didn't dream that date up, it was on the deed prior to conveying it.
You had
2001.
to get to that route. I didn't
Yeah.
have that information that
But I mean, of course, there were many changes to the zoning law in the years they Yeah. You know,
Oh, yeah, but if it was created
When it was
prior to
original.
zoning,
Right.
then it's grandfathered, and I would agree with it.
And I think the only thing in front of us is it a grandfathered lot or not?
Right.
Period. Because as you said, you know, the purpose of the merger and everything else
if it
is
was-
to try and limit non-conforming lots.
If it was,
However, there is it is, grandfather lots are protected. That's-
and I would agree. See, if you took the point, because I didn't have enough data to get back, but if, for example, and it is not the case, that it was created and purchased in 5/8/2001, then it would be non-buildable. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, that's just the date that she bought it. That's all.
Right, but
And I agree with you.
Go back to the deed at which that is referring to. See, this was recorded May 8, 2001, when she bought it. But that tract of land
She said she bought it in 2008, but that doesn't matter. Go ahead. That's what it says here.
well, the deed, no, 2001, May 8th,
Yeah,
2001.
2001.
May 8th, 2000.
The correction by the attorney was done in
Anybody got a good paragraph?
February 31st.
Yeah, you want to borrow these?
Yeah.
So this is the deed that conveyed it
You're on.
to Sharon. And this is referred to those premises that were conveyed to Jones in November the 13th, 1945.
Yeah. You have no argument with me. You don't have to argue anymore. I'm happy.
Okay.
I just didn't have the data that you're referring to.
Yeah, I think the deed was included in there, no?
Yeah, I believe.
Well, I had the wrong set of glasses. I had my sunglasses on then.
Okay. Well, we're backing up. Would you like to speak to this? Please step up to there so for the sake of the recording.
We need your name and address. ma'am.
Sharon Vincent, 43 Oak Avenue. I'm a little confused. Mr. Beal, when you started your discussion and described, determining that this probably should not have merged or shouldn't be considered merged, you said we probably want to look at the dimensional or the special permit part of it, just in case. Is that something you still want to do?
I see no reason not to do that since we're meeting anyway.
Okay,
And the only reason I say that is that any of these decisions can be challenged in court.
right.
So we do not have a definitive answer from the attorney.
Right.
But that's our interpretation of this document from the Department of Housing and Community Development. And this Donald Schmidt, who prepared that, is probably well-known and highly regarded as the guru of zoning.
He wrote the book.
He wrote the book. So what he had to say to me carries substantial weight.
Right.
But I'm not,
Does that mean that what you're proposing is we go through this process as if that were not the case? We're going through the same process I would have tonight had you not determined that? Is that what you're referring to when you say? I'm just confused by that.
essentially, yes, you're essentially right. It's kind of, if this were appealed,
Yeah,
and they would not only have to appeal that decision, but they would also have to appeal, if we so choose, the granting of a dimensional variation.
I get you.
So it's double protection for you, the way I'm looking at it. Since we're meeting and having this hearing here anyway,
Right.
let's consider that, because it's well within the ZBA's authority to grant a dimensional variation.
I have one question. When you acquired the property, you had Roger Williams and Marion Benson agree that it was a buildable property.
It was no guarantees. They just said it was probably.
But based on that, you charged forward and the clock ran in time.
Mm-hmm.
So that from the day you bought it to the present day, the only time that you were aware you couldn't build on it was when Mike sent you a letter and said, based on what his findings are, it's a non-buildable lot, and deferred it, the matter to this board. Is that correct? When did you decide? Is that the first time you decided?
No, the first time I found out that an issue may occur was when the contractor called me and said, saw it in the newspaper, teased me about becoming a land baron.
Say that again, please.
A friend of mine who is a contractor.
Told you that you got that, and you don't have to go over that. Your friend.
Well, that's the first time I was told that it's possible it's not buildable because it would have merged under the common ownership doctrine.
Then you went to your attorney and you had it corrected.
Exactly.
And when you had it corrected, when was that corrected?
February of 2002, I believe.
Yes.
2000 and what?
Two.
From 2002 forward,
Yes, I absolutely.
you had a buildable lot.
That's what I believed. I believed, nobody gave me any guarantees every step of the way. Nobody wanted to.
But I want to ask you a question. Did you at any time apply for an abatement because it was non-buildable?
No.
So you've never had an abatement on this property?
I had an abatement this year because some error happened in the assessor's office where the record was changed and they can't explain it. It grew to 1 acre and the
That was one of the questions I had when I reviewed this document that you provided, because I pulled the property record card in addition to the one that you had set in here.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize until later that the one that I pulled just days ago said that it was the...
My understanding is that it's been abated substantially based on the data that I was gathering. I went to get the data to say, because, and the only reason I went there, and it's not going to be a part of the business of this board that really, hey, you have to, if you got a business, then it's with the assessors, not this board. But in the process of doing due diligence, you check everything. And I wanted to check it because I was concerned to be on your side of the fence. That, gee, that person knew that they had a buildable lot. They went around and they paid the full cost of the $100,000. It was $100,000 when you bought it. That's what the assessor's office said, that the appraised value at that time would have been $100,000. It's probably $89,000 now.
Oh, I never heard the $100,000
That's what I'm just telling you. I'm gathering the data. Remember.
Okay.
And what I wanted to say is, here's a person that paid quite a bit of money over the 15 years, and therefore, on a hardship basis, I have to plead with you, was where I was coming from.
Yeah, I did not pay. I paid what I thought was a very reasonable tax on a piece of property that was potentially buildable. That is a designation in the assessor's office, hasn't been tested, so they don't dare.
But yet you knew it was buildable, but you said that you went and said it's a potential. I think I want to terminate the conversation here.
Yeah.
Because then I just was trying to put it and ask the questions based on, investigating and trying to get it to be on your side, and then it turns out it's the opposite way. If you did it, I'm jealous of you, and have a nice day. But you see where I was coming from.
I'm not sure.
And the assessor's office said that you got the abatement because it was potentially not buildable, the words you just used.
No, that's
You
not true.
just, you just read me some words that's,
No, I got the abatement because the record never should have changed. My tax bill this year should have been essentially the same as it was last year, given the tweak in the tax rate and the property value. So what happened was someone played with that record. Someone in the assessor's office tweaked that record for their own purposes to understand. It wasn't anything personal, it had nothing to do with me. It was the assessors looking at that and saying, what would happen to the value of this if we changed this? It never got changed back. They changed it to 1 acre, and they changed the code to buildable. That never should have happened. It was just weird coincidence that the same time I'm approaching this to find out about this lot, that my tax bill comes in and it says $89,000.
89,000 is correct, that's
So
what
I
I
went down
checked
to
the
the
record.
assessor's office and I said, can you explain this? And Harold,
And then it's assessed for a potentially non-buildable at 6778.
the assessors, one thing I've learned in this process is every single department has their own considerations for how they view a piece of property. And in the assessor's office, it's considered potentially, it's not unbuildable, it's classified as potentially buildable. Until I test the waters, get an approval from some board that I can build something there, that triggers the assessor's office to change the code to buildable.
Yeah, well, see, and again, I say, I'm gonna take, I was just trying to get to how I was investigating the application to see what happens. That's why I asked you the question, when did you decide, when did you first decide that it was a non-buildable lot?
When Mr. Savage.
And the only time that you got data after the attorney changed it and modified the deed from that day forward to the day that Mike Savageau sent you a letter and says that he didn't think it was buildable, you were the understanding that it was a buildable lot.
That it was potentially buildable.
But that's,
Nobody ever gave me
but
guarantees.
the word potential is a key operative word for
Right.
your information, is that when the assessors are not sure, they change it to be potentially, and then only charge you as a non-buildable lot. That's where I got the feedback from. But that, I still want to leave it, so let you and I stop talking.
Okay, good. Now I can talk. That was one of the questions that I had, Sharon, because on the record that I pulled, it showed that this piece of land was an acre.
Right.
And,
So as of. you
and
pulled
this, and that was for fiscal 15, which is the problem that you were relating to, right?
Exactly.
Because prior to that, it was shown as it did on this plot plan as 6/10 of an acre, or 26,136 square feet,
Right.
which is correct from everything else that I saw. This was the only document that I saw where it had
Didn't jive.
mysteriously taken it up to an acre.
Right, right.
It didn't make
They
any
can-
sense to me.
Yeah, they can explain it, and if you read I didn't bring my paperwork from the assessor's office, but if you go back and read the wording on my abatement application, it was essentially exactly what I described before, that there was nothing to trigger a change on the way the assessor's office was handling the taxation of that property. And that, and aside from that, the fact that it ballooned up to 1 acre, and it's not an acre, it's
No.
0.6 of an acre, that there was an error in the record at the assessor's office, and they corrected, the board met. and-
So it is corrected now?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it's supposed to be. I'm a little troubled that the card you pulled this week still says an acre.
Well,
Well, I'm not surprised at that, because I've seen mistakes on cards like that before. So,
based on the...
but I just wanted to call it to your attention to make sure that it is corrected,
Yes, yeah,
because it should agree with this deed,
right. Right.
as far as
They
I
assure me
know.
it will be corrected.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question while you guys are on that? So on the property card that was in the packet, the value, the prior total of the property in question was 82,000 and change, and now the current total is $3,700. So what's the difference in that if you look on the valuation information?
What are you saying, for the current now?
Right here, the current value.
The current value
Prior
is
total was 82,100.
Yeah, it's 80 odd thousand. In other words, she applied for an abatement this year,
So is that why
on January 22nd.
So the abatement reflects the current total versus the prior total value?
The value,
The incorrect one,
No, the
because that was the one that I pulled, was what was for
In the packet.
2015. No, that's not in the packet, that's the one that I pulled. The one in the packet, from what I understand, is the correct one, because it has the same square footage for that lot as is on the deed.
Correct, 0.6 acres, right?
Yeah.
But so the applicant applied for an abatement, and that's why I'm trying to figure out
That was in
why the
January.
total went from 82,000, the value of the property, to all of a sudden
It went
$3,700.
down to 1,500.
May I speak to that? May I speak?
Yes,
He's the boss.
yes, you may, please.
Thank you. It was always around $3,000 to $4,000 in the years that
How
I've
much?
owned that property. The taxable amount on that property,
There's always what?
$3,000 to $4,000.
And I agree that that's what happened, because there was the assessor's office abated it.
That was
Put it
because,
back.
Not you, not necessarily you, but them. They charge you a very small amount, because back in the date that you bought it, it was assessed at that time at around $100,000 is the come-out number. But then it was justified by somebody, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To be worth only $3,000.
Right.
And the value of the assessed value of property, as we moved forward, went down because the market went down. So that when you went on January 22nd, the assessed value is $67.78 based on, I got two numbers here, $1,436 or $1,500. One of them they assessed it at.
Yeah.
And that's how that all came. But
Well-
that activity could be on their side of it. That's why I said from when I first started the conversation, I needed to understand, but I said that the dollars associated was not individually me, my interest. I was expecting to see something totally different and didn't see that.
Well, if I can just reiterate that that is a fluke. That $80,000 charge from the assessing viewpoint is a fluke. That never should have shown up on my bill.
That will
And-
show up after this meeting if you're approved.
No, it will only show up if I file to get actual paperwork to transact something on that property.
But we will, if we find favorable for you tonight, then we transmit
To the
the
assessor.
finding to the assessors, and the assessors then will deal with it under, looking at it with different eyes, obviously. And the number I heard, and I know this, what they do, was that 87,000 that you were talking
Right.
about.
Right.
But that's,
Well, and that's fine.
We
If-
can move
if
on
If
again.
I have a guarantee that it's a buildable lot, I'm very happy to pay the taxes I owe on that value. I have no problem with that. I was going with the flow with the way the town handled that property and historically handled that property. This fluke that happened this year, they cannot explain it to me. They apologized to me. They're the ones who just helped me get, it was actually essentially an administrative abatement, because it was an administrative error, changing that code to buildable and changing it to 1 acre from 0.6 acres. So they were correcting their mistake through that abatement. It had nothing to do with me challenging the value. It was, isn't this a mistake? Yes, it was a mistake.
no argument for me.
But
okay,
Do you want
let's
to-
move on, then. We're all in agreement,
I
right?
gave up three.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on the
Yes.
question, so then the prior total of the 82,100 for the value that I see is...
Where do you see that value? I don't see any.
The last number.
It's right here, Ray. that 80, on the value of the property in prior total years, it had been assessed at 82,000. So what you're saying is that that's the mistake. If we had
Yeah.
looked at it 2 years ago, it would have been $3,700, but because of that fluke
but
you're
it-
talking about,
Exactly.
that 87,000 just pops up.
But if it was buildable,
It'd be $87,000.
It would have been
so it would-
87,000.
Right, well,
Those are all
obviously,
those years.
there's something going on. Okay, so that takes over that question I had.
That's what triggered my thought, was I came thinking that she
Well-
was getting beat up, and she wasn't.
Let's move on.
Again, I give up.
The only point I wanted to make is that the dimensions of that lot are different from the deed. And that's obviously an error, because nobody's changed that lot.
Right.
There's no recorded deed that changes the dimension of it that I've
Where-
seen.
I'm sorry, where the dimensions in the current deed don't speak truly to the lot?
They do.
They do.
The property record that moved it to an acre
Oh, that,
is
yes.
incorrect.
Yes, they're good. They've assured
Yeah.
me they're going to fix that. I don't know.
Right.
I will go in again tomorrow.
And that, as we say, that's an issue between the Board of Assessors and you, the property owner.
Right.
From everything that we see that's recorded, the lot size is clearly 6/10 of an acre,
Right.
and it's never been changed.
No, it's never,
Only on the assessor's card, that
Right.
one card that I saw.
that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you're not, I have a couple other quick questions, but,
Sure.
you know, so one of them concerns why the building inspector thought the merger doctrine would be applicable to this application, and then why town council either concurred with them, or did our town council? I mean, first, you know, when I read the Department of Housing and Community Development that you sent out, the first thing it says, you know, when it's a legal interpretation, ask a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to find out whether, did Mike confer with our legal counsel, and they did?
Yeah, I thought I'd addressed that. Yes, he called the town council, and he didn't get a definitive answer from him.
Okay.
You know, and it never came up about this being a conforming lot and a non-conforming lot. I think that the mindset may well have been, I don't know this, but they were looking at this as two substandard lots,
Okay.
in which case the merger doctrine would certainly apply. And the attorneys voiced the opinion that, you know, somebody could challenge that, and there's all kinds of case law on this merger doctrine.
I do, yeah. I think that what they were looking at, the section, I think it's under the merger and doctrine, B9A, I think is what they were looking at, that says, separately owned lots at the time of the zoning change merge into one lot under the merger doctrine when they were subsequently purchased by one owner. And I think when they put both their names on that piece of property, under that section, if they were both non-conforming lots, they merged
Yeah. You know,
the day they did it.
right. That would have been the case if they were both non-conforming lots.
Right.
But they weren't.
Right.
One was conforming, the other one wasn't.
I'm a victim of that, but wrong.
Okay. Did you have something else, Hans?
I think that was the only, I'm just questioning why Mike and town council would throw out that. I understand why, but are they aware that, of the circumstances that one was a conforming lot and one was a substandard non-conforming lot?
I would have to answer that no, because in my conversation with
They were
Mike
assuming
this
that-
week,
they were assuming that
was
both
when
of
we got to the point of, it was a conforming lot and a non-conforming lot, and they both weren't non-conforming. So I don't think that really caught the attention of the attorney, because I think what happened was, as Al said, is that, you know, the joint ownership was triggered under that section, and the focus didn't get to
Right.
the lots being one conforming and one non-conforming. So, as a result of my conversation with Mike, he agrees that, that was the case, it was just missed, and so,
If they had done the reverse, is to take the non-conforming lot and buy it, and then chopped up the conforming lot to make the non-conforming conforming, you have the reverse, and that's why I would agree that it doesn't apply.
doesn't make any
Nothing to
sense.
be
You
gained.
can't do that.
Yeah,
No.
there's nothing to be
You can't
gained,
take a conforming lot and make it.
which makes his argument perfect.
Correct.
Jeez, perfect argument, huh? Thanks, Don.
I must be doing something right. I've been trying to get not into a discussion with you. I'm going to let you off the hook and him off the hook.
It's all right.
Okay. Did we get by the, huh?
No, it's on there.
No,
I just have a question. This was all triggered. I assume you went to the building inspector and wanted to build on this lot or sell this lot or just wanted a ruling?
What caused me to go speak to him?
Yes.
I live directly across the street from the new construction of the new high school. And the lot is actually directly across. And when I went to one of the abutters meetings for that construction, they were talking about the crosswalk that would come. And so I spoke up and said, I own that lot. Can I be part of that to talk about where that might connect across the street so that it doesn't prohibit me in terms of where I might need a driveway? And that's when I went to talk to Mike, and that's when he said, oh, I think this is a merger doctrine problem, and we went from there.
Okay. I was just curious as to
Yeah.
what actually triggered it.
It's been a crazy ride,
You're getting an education.
I am getting an education.
Yeah, well, so did I. Okay,
We want to see if anybody wanted to speak in favor of the petition.
good question, since we have, you're in favor.
You have
Would you
to come
step up,
Yeah,
would you step up to the podium?
Give us your name and address, please.
Brian Swift, 63 Oak Ave. Yeah, from what I think, it was a glitch when it was sold in the paper, and
Yeah,
I mean, they made the investment
yeah,
to buy a piece of property that was worth something instead of paying taxes on it, and then it's, what kind of investment is that?
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's right is right. They should be able to do it.
Okay,
That's how I feel, and that's why I'm here tonight.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, let me see how the board feels about addressing my suggestion of granting a dimensional variation for the lot size. Just to be double
Are you suggesting
sure.
that we,
You want to make a motion to that?
how do we, you want to do two things, I assume. You want to just...
Well, we've
agree with
already
building
addressed
inspectors?
that in our, I think, if I understand correctly, the board feels unanimously that there is really no issue in terms of the merger doctrine. Does not apply to this situation.
Why don't you take
So-
a poll us on it
Okay?
individually? That'll do it.
I don't believe it applies.
And I agree with you that
Yeah.
it doesn't apply.
Hans?
I had some concerns about it, but looking at the document, I think the merger theory is really for two substandard lots being merged.
Exactly.
And since one of them is conforming, I don't think it applies. My concern around that was, what kind of can of worms do we open up if we, take the application if it was a merging document, a merged property, and then unmerge it. And
I think we'd be having a whole different conversation here tonight, because then
Yeah.
we'd be talking about, does that correction do it? Do we have the authority to do that, to override the merger? I think it would be a whole different conversation if that was in play.
Yeah. So do you agree that it just does not apply?
yeah, I think the merger theory, from what you gave us, I think it's talking about substandard lots.
Yeah.
two
We can
substandard
only be
lots.
defeated in the court based on the decision, and I'm
Right.
willing to take that risk.
So I feel a little bit more comfortable than I did when I came in here.
Good. So, what about granting the dimensional variation? Just to be doubly sure, so that,
Yeah, no, that's fine, I mean, do we make a motion and affirm that
Well,
we
do we need a dimensional
build a
variation?
lot?
we don't, in one sense. The only reason I'm suggesting that, because we're here in a hearing, that we do that, is to be doubly sure that there is no future problem for the applicant, because if that were the case, then there's attorney fees on both sides, both for us, if it were appealed to Superior Court, and for the applicant to defend it. And it's clearly within our power to grant a dimensional variation, and the likelihood of anybody challenging both of these decisions is less than what it would be for anyone.
I have only one question. Now that we've detached, we haven't come to that conclusion, but I assume based on what you're saying, we detached the merger doctrine, and now we're looking at a lot that stands, that is a grandfathered lot. I would not want to, I think, contaminate its standing by granting it some special. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't need anything if it's a grandfathered lot made prior to zoning, and that's its standing. It doesn't need to be. If you do it, you're contaminating. If you grant a special, if you grant anything other than what it is, I think you contaminate its decision or its standing.
Right, can't we just?
You're making an argument that this is not a merged lot.
Right.
My argument is, we're saying that, we came to that determination, but there may be this attorney, that town council even, that comes back and says to Michael, no, under this section, and then
we deal with it.
I mean, can't we just make a statement that we agree this lot has never lost its grandfathered status and therefore is still a buildable lot? Would that do, without mentioning because obviously if it's grandfathered, then you don't need dimensional variations because that is possible.
Because you're contaminating, in my mind, you're contaminating its standing.
Right.
well, I'll just throw this out. I think if you just said, you're making a motion to grant a special permit for a dimensional variation to maintain the grandfathering, you're not contaminating anything. You're saying you're maintaining the grandfathering.
Yeah, you kind of do it both that way. That's what I was going to say originally, but yeah, that would be fine, right?
But if you feel different, then,
why don't you make that motion,
all right.
Do you
I'm gonna
have
make a
to-
motion.
then we can discuss it.
There you go.
I'm going to make a motion that we grant the special permit for dimensional variation to maintain the grandfathered status on 53 Oak Ave.
Why,
I'll
Second?
why do you have to make a motion to maintain it if it's already been decided they're two separate things and all zoning?
As I said, I don't think that we've decided that. I don't know if,
Yeah, but
That's true.
But we decided it because that's what we're gonna do. We're making the decision to say that it did not merge based on the interpretation. So that's a decision, and a hard decision of this board. Now, anybody has 20 days to appeal, after the date that we approve it, 20 days to appeal it. When they do the appealing of it, whoever does that, then we're off, now we have to deal with it. If we granted the special permit for it, that's also as challengeable. In other words, the same person would challenge you in either case if they're going to challenge you in the first place. No matter how you write it, they're going to challenge it. And the one that stands firm and hard is that it's grandfathered.
Right.
That'd be my point. I think you weaken what you're trying to do, even though, because you're trying to do the same thing, but putting some extra teeth into it that I don't think applies.
Well, I mean, she came here as
Yeah, I
an
could be
aggrieved
wrong.
person, so I think we agreed with her that, right?
But she came aggrieved only on the fact that the merger doctrine
merger.
applied or did
Well,
not
On
apply.
circumstances regarding a grandfathered parcel is what she said here, and
And
so it
why,
doesn't say anything about the,
why would you want to do anything else? Because it might affect her financially, when if you change anything, she might be taxed more money on something.
Change what?
What do you change?
What, well, you said earlier
well,
that,
she said that doesn't kick in until she goes for a building permit.
right, and she's not applying for a
Right.
building permit, so
So
why
what's
do we
changing?
really need a motion to
changing.
do anything other than just
Right.
say that
It's just assuring it's insulation against a challenge. That's all.
That's how I see
Well,
it.
I think
Yeah.
we're just making the statement, we agreed.
Yeah.
Never lost his grandfather. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, but I think what Don is saying, and I somewhat concur with him, there's no reason to, I mean, if we say, hey, the merger doctrine doesn't apply in this particular case, because then, yeah, it's a grandfather, and then the applicant can choose to do whatever they want with it. They can come back here, or, I mean, you know, why muddy the waters? We don't have to muddy the waters, right? There's a if it's a grandfathered piece of property, parcel, then,
Right.
yeah, it's grandfathered.
You know,
Well, how does that motion,
How do we say-
how's the motion before us muddy the waters? I don't understand.
I don't either.
I do.
That's,
I think under our decision, that if we just leave it status quo, Mike talks to the town council comes up with something, says, yes, I think the merger doctrine applies. Michael says, I can't issue a permit, it's not buildable.
So would it be?
No relief from the zoning board of appeals was given to you.
but she's not asking for a building permit.
Right, but
Asking to have it ruled whether it's
her opinion was
buildable lot.
right, the building inspector was incorrect, I think is what we're saying here tonight.
Then
And the
you're
building
saying that.
inspector wasn't gonna issue a permit unless the town council said, yes, in fact, that's a buildable lot. He didn't get that kind of answer.
I don't know
So
if he ever
therefore,
go back
I'm
and
assuming
ask.
that's why he wouldn't issue a permit.
If we find only
would say that,
that
right?
it's grandfathered, and the merger doctrine doesn't come in tomorrow morning, or after 14 days and you stamp it, Mike can issue a building permit.
Right. I think
Done.
this gives Mike based on the ZBA's opinion, then here, I can now issue this permit and I've got justification for doing that. He doesn't have that right now.
All right, so I'm just looking at the first page of what the applicant's requesting, and it specifically says, I'm aggrieved by the circumstances and seek a special permit dimensional variation and maintain a grandfathered status on 53 Oak Ave. Okay, we think we've determined that the merger doctrine doesn't apply because it's not two substandard lots, it's a conforming lot and a grandfathered lot. So, you know, it's a grandfathered status regardless of whether we give it a special permit dimensional variation or not. Because the merger doctrine doesn't apply. So why do anything else?
Yeah, why force it?
as I said before, the only reason I'm suggesting that is in the case somebody, if we leave it at the one, is that it's the board's opinion that the merger doctrine does not apply to this situation. Any decision this board makes can be challenged in Superior Court.
Right.
Appealed.
Right.
Now, as we can see, you know, there's all kinds of references in that document to appeals.
Case law.
Case law. Well, my point is that if we also grant a dimensional variation that supports the grandfathered status of this, that's insulation that even if anybody appeals it, they've got to overcome both of those.
Right.
rather than just the grandfather.
What kind
I don't
of
think it's taking
dimensions are we
anything away or
changing?
muddying any
No.
water.
Which,
I just
what
don't see
dimensions
it.
are we changing?
Acreage.
Remember what we're doing, it's a
We're
special
affirming.
permit with dimensional
Yeah,
variations.
that's it.
That implies.
The lot
dimension.
size is what I'm asking. Because the lot size under our current bylaw is that it's, what was it, 40,000
right?
feet?
Yeah, right.
Unless it's grandfathered.
Doesn't say that in there.
No, our bylaws said that. The state bylaws said that if it's grandfathered, it's grandfathered. And it only requires 5,000 square feet, and you can go to the zero lot line if it was built before zoning. And that's what it says. There are precious few houses around that are that small that someone would put 5,000 square foot and could, in theory, put a 5,000 square foot house on it. That means it would go border to border. That could happen if it was grandfathered lot, if it's prior to zoning.
I don't follow that.
Well, yeah.
I
You
don't
can go
see
to
that.
the zero lot line.
Well,
Yeah,
this,
and a
that's not a
grandfather,
part of
I
the
think we're
discussion.
going away.
That's not part of the discussion at all. You know, that would come to the building permit, whether it would come before the ZBA for a dimensional variation on setbacks. You can build a house on that size lot and adhere to all the setbacks.
What do we want to do, gentlemen? I'll withdraw
Okay.
the motion if you would like.
So what was the motion before us? I'm sorry.
Did you have it down, Lisa?
Yes, a special, Al made a motion to grant a special permit for dimensional variation to maintain the grandfathered status of 53 Oak Avenue, and Paul seconded the motion.
Discussion?
Then I guess,
Huh?
unless anybody else has something to say, it's time to vote.
I'm just struggling as to why. I understand where you guys are coming from, and I understand where Don's coming from. I'm struggling as to whether it's needed or not, for me personally, because it's a grandfathered lot, and, you know,
Let's put it this way, it may not be needed, but it isn't gonna hurt.
and then the dimensional variation that you're looking for is just in the lot size from
Lot size.
40,000, because it's 26,000 or 25,000 square feet.
Because we could not do anything, because we, I think, agreed that it doesn't apply as far as the merger doctrine. But that would give them nothing to reference other than the minutes of this meeting that we in fact disagreed with the building inspector and felt it was a grandfathered buildable lot. I don't know where that leaves them if we don't.
Well, let me just address that. It's not a matter of disagreeing with the building inspector, because that letter he wrote was back in January. And we don't have anything in writing, but I'm telling you that I had a conversation with him on Monday, and he agrees that there is no problem with the merger doctrine. But we also said that because he didn't get a definitive answer from the attorney, that it's possible that it could be challenged. To avoid any difficulty from that, Al's motion would address that, so that even if they challenge the merger doctrine, we've still granted.
We still grant it.
Well, no,
So in
that's,
light of that, if the applicant went to Mike
Yes.
tomorrow and asked for building permit for that lot, he would grant it without us doing anything tonight?
Well, he would grant it as a buildable lot,
Right.
see, I-
because,
he now agrees with
but in
us.
order to grant a building permit, he's gonna have to have a plan of what's going on.
Oh, right, right.
If
I'm
it's
not
challenged,
getting myself, but I'm just
if
saying.
it's challenged, because we find that that is a grandfathered lot and someone challenges it. If we add the caveat to it to say, and it has a special dimensional variation, that it is grandfathered, and that's what it has to say. That's the mission of this dimensional variation, is to confirm it's grandfathered. Then the same attack would come no matter how you wrote it. because the issue would always fall back in the courts of the merger doctrine. But if, to say that, for us to say that that it is a grandfathered lot, that's what we find, and that the building inspector erred based on the fact, and then we add to it the dimensional variation, which will say, unless I misunderstand, it will say that the special dimensional variation confirms its grandfather. That's the only thing it does. It doesn't give you or take from you. It's just a statement of facts. And the person that's going to attack it will attack it no matter how you wrote the decision.
Well, they can challenge any decision, for that matter. But it
How
makes
do you
it-
defend yourself against a litigation?
I'm not suggesting we write something to try to defend ourselves.
That's
I'm
what-
saying that...
Not in court.
Huh?
We're not in court.
We're not in court.
No, but you're
We just
trying-
want the
give it
decision to be
interpretation.
very clear, huh?
Yeah, it's free and clear. It's only it's free and clear for the special, the dimensional variation is the granting to it, which in some magical way
Well,
makes the grandfather unit grandfather.
let's do this. Let's bring this to a close. I'm going to take a straw vote. It's clear that you're against that motion of Al's,
I'm
but-
interested in granting.
so a straw vote. Hans? Because you've indicated that you're willing to withdraw it.
That's correct.
I don't see what the special permit, giving a special permit dimensional variation does, other than, I guess, you're just trying to reinforce the fact that it is a buildable lot.
Right.
And by doing
Reinforcing that
that,
it's
that's
Not
what,
that it's buildable, that it's grandfather.
well, grandfather, correct.
We're
different.
reinforcing
It's
that it's
different.
grandfathered
What
in
we're
our
talking
opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so let me just ask you that. Grandfathered lot,
That was the wording.
there's the possibility that the applicant could come back here and looking for a special dimensional variation.
They may, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what they want, whoever buys it and wants to build
What they want to do.
a mansion on it, why, it's going to be a problem, because it's it's a small lot.
So just playing devil's advocate, what happens if there's no special permit dimensional variation attached to the grandfather? The grandfather, that we understand that it is a grandfather lot.
Mike would have to,
It's
would grant,
buildable,
if we
that's
found
all.
it that it was a grandfathered lot tomorrow, if that was a determination tomorrow, I wish we had Mike on the phone, would grant a permit.
Right.
You don't grant a permit until there's a building plan. Well, the only thing we're saying is it is a buildable lot.
I tend to agree with,
I think the spirit
I
of
think
it,
just this.
my spirit is I want to give it to him. And have him
I
come.
think, I don't think there's any disagreement there, Don. I think we're
Well,
all
that's what I'm saying, we're all in
favorable
agreement.
towards the applicant. It's just how we're going to get this done.
But I think you're adding one, that special permit dimensional variation just adds, I think muddies the water. And I tend to agree with Don, it's a.
I don't,
it's a-
I
So you're
honestly
against it, then?
cannot see how you think it muddies the water, but that's your opinion, but.
Well, because you've got now we're saying, okay, we're gonna give you a dimensional variation from 25,000 to 40,000 to conform with a buildable, what's required in the district, correct? From 25, which is, it's 25 to 26,000 square feet now.
The lot's not changing.
Right.
It's the same old
The
lot.
lot's not changing, nothing's changing.
Everything's staying as is, other than just saying that.
Correct. It's just
You agree
reinforcing
with
that we
the-
found that it's grandfathered, nothing more.
You agree?
Well, and exactly,
With the
so,
exception.
so on that premise, the fact that I say, okay, the doctrine, the merger doctrine does not apply to this particular parcel, I think says that.
Right.
That's a grandfathered lot.
And then we're
But you don't know that.
reinforcing.
We're sitting here saying it doesn't apply. I've never,
Well, that's what
I've never studied case law.
Well,
Sit here
and
say it
that's
doesn't
why,
apply.
and that's why I asked whether Mike had talked to town council and what town council's suggestion was, and that goes back to the very beginning of the document that says, hey, you know, I would, you know, the author of it, Donald Schmidt, suggests right at the front saying, you know, legal interpretations, you know, you talk to the municipal council. Personally, from what I've seen, it doesn't apply, but I'm not the lawyer.
I agree, that's what I'm saying, I'm not a lawyer.
But how does the dimensional variation supersede all of that?
It doesn't supersede it.
Well, you're saying, then why do we have it on the board?
It confirms it. It affirms it, that's all.
Why does Don saying that the merger doesn't apply?
I
doesn't
agree,
apply.
I agree with everything. The only thing is that when you turn around and give you you're saying that the special permit for dimensional variation now gives legal standing to the grandfathered lot.
It's an affirmation, it's not, it doesn't give legal standing.
But if anybody challenges it, we're in the courts again. Which drives me crazy. And by the way, I might as well say what I'll do. I wouldn't go against it, I would abstain, in principle.
Well, again, I withdraw the motion if that's with the straw vote.
This only
I'm
requires
waiting to hear from you.
four in favor vote, right?
Right.
Okay.
I like being chair because it's not chair, because it's a
Hans,
position.
Hans, I'm waiting to hear from you.
I think you guys are gonna need to convince me, or just give me some reasoning as to why a dimensional variation is needed, I guess the question is. It's just that I'm not,
It's simply to affirm what we've already decided, that it doesn't apply to, the merger doctrine doesn't apply, and
so it's
this lot is
affirming,
buildable.
it's affirming the decision that we don't think the doctrine applies to this
Affirming
particular case.
the decision, we don't think it applies, and we find it to be a grandfathered lot.
Okay, so if that's the case,
And potentially it's buildable.
the buildable's not questioned, it's
That's right.
grandfathered.
Grandfather.
So based on that, I feel comfortable doing it. If that's all we're doing is affirming that the doctrine does not apply in this particular case, and it just affirms it by doing the special permit dimensional variation, I'm in favor of it, because
That's
I
what
don't
it
think the
says,
doctrine
affirming
applies.
that it's a
That's not gonna keep us
grandfathered
out of
lot.
court.
Okay,
Challenges.
so let's have a vote on it then.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, so it's carried. It only requires a supermajority, which is 4 out of 5, so that motion carries in addition to our agreement that it was, that the merger doctrine does not apply. So, some insulation after much ado.
I just had one concern as the applicant, I was concerned about.
You have to get up. We're still on the line.
I'm sorry. I was concerned that if that didn't happen, if that didn't carry, that I'd be right back at square one with Mike on the phone with the attorney who won't give a definitive answer, and then I'd have to come back and do this anyway. Do you see what I'm saying? That was my fear. If we didn't get that, if you didn't provide that second buffer.
But we did.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
So,
Yeah, well,
That was
Yeah.
the proverbial sausage being made. Everybody likes it, nobody likes to see it being made.
So, it was affirmed, and there's a few things that I need to read to make you aware of. This special permit is granted with the contingency that petitioner comply with all licenses, regulations, statutes, and ordinances of any and all applicable local, state, and federal boards or agencies that have any jurisdiction over the premises. It's a catch-all. And the granting of the special permit is inured to the benefit of you, the applicant, and shall cease in the event the property is sold or sublet to another party. You can sell it as a buildable lot, but that party is going to have to get the necessary permits to do anything with it.
Okay.
A copy of this decision is going to be filed with the town clerk within 14 days. And any party that's aggrieved with this board's decision may appeal to Superior Court within 20 days after the decision is filed with the town clerk. And no special permits take effect until a copy of the decision bearing the certification of the town clerk that 20 days has elapsed and the decision has been filed, dismissed, or denied is recorded in the Registry of Deeds. So,
Okay, so am I notified by the town clerk of that?
you will be,
By,
yeah,
okay. Okay,
okay.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn? Housekeeping to do?
I just wanted to mention that if you aren't aware, that the Citizen Planet Training Collaborative has their annual meeting on March 21st at the Holy Cross in Worcester. That's a really good session if you have the chance.
Which one is this?
This is this,
It is, I was
Yeah.
going with you one time.
Yeah.
When is the session?
What time is it?
it's March
What
21st.
time does it start?
That's Monday or Tuesday?
No, it's Saturday. It's
Saturday.
always on a Saturday. It begins at, what time?
I'm drinking.
They have a registration at 8 o'clock to 8:45, and then the sessions begin at 9:30. There are 3 different session periods. And
You have to pick a session, or you go to all of them?
you can pick, yeah. There's multiple sessions.
Yeah, they're
No,
going on at the same time.
Not at the same time. A lot of the times you have 3 of them at the same hours. I was just
I
asking-
sent you the link.
Huh?
If anybody wants to go, I need to know real quick.
There are a total of 6 on the first segment. There are 6 more on the second segment. and
So you can
then-
only go to one of the 6. Okay, that's all I want to know.
Yeah.
So you have an opportunity to go to 3 different sessions.
Yeah, and there's 9 sessions, or so it's a bigger number, that's all.
It's 18,
Yeah.
actually.
Whatever.
It's very good. They do a real good job.
Now, when is this other thing, this confirmation date that we have for all members?
March
Appreciation.
31st, the,
Oh, the appreciation, the volunteer appreciation night
Volunteer
is
appreciation,
you
right.
don't have to be old, though.
March 31st. Any volunteer, no matter what age, can attend.
Old or young?
Well, do it the
Well, that was easy.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Yeah. All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Yeah.
All right. We are adjourned.